Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So there is another question. Does succulent cuttings need humidity in the air? Now guys, I'm not very sure about this because every person living in a different place has a very different rate of humidity. For example, in my city right now during this season wherein it tends to rain, the humidity during the daytime is between 60 to 65%. And during summers it's around 50 to 55%. So now during the monsoon season it's around 60 to 66%. Now even though the 66% it tends to work out really well because I do not have any issues with my succulents rooting. My succulent cuttings tend to root very easily. Now probably I'm not very sure about this, but I think if the environment is very humid, that could cause a problem. If the humidity is very low, that could again cause a problem in creating roots. So I think there should be a balance in the humidity. Now my environment right now is not very dry, is not very humid. It's somewhere in between because I never had any issues with delayed rooting. Within a couple of weeks, my succulents tend to root, which is a good part. So I think if you have a balanced humidity, which is not too high, which is not too low, I think that tends to work out really well. Now this is something that I'm just talking from my growing conditions. I'm not very sure if there are issues because a lot of people say who are from coastal areas, they still have issues rooting their cuttings even though the humidity is very high. So I think there has to be a balance in the humidity, but of course if there is a good amount of humidity, the cuttings will react automatically to that. But again, if it's too high or if it's too low, that will again affect the cutting. But apart from the humidity, I think it also depends upon the variety of succulent. Like for example, over here, I had these 3 cuttings that I had done initially, you might have seen, out of which the sedum Adolphi started to put out the roots early. One, because sedums tend to, propagate much faster. So this one happened to put out the roots first. Then I had my Echeveria Pretty in Pink. These both are Pretty in Pink. They both were cut at the same time. But you can see this one has not rooted yet. It has one dry leaf. It has not rooted yet. This one is just about to put out a root. You can see over here. It is just about to put out a root, but it's been a very long time. Now these 3 cuttings were done almost 2 weeks back. They hardly have any roots, but this is my Echeveria elegans, and I think I had done a cutting of this probably a week back. And if I'm going to show you this, you can see it has already started to put out huge roots. You can see this, it has already started to put out the roots. So apart from the humidity, I think it also depends a lot on the variety of succulents. Some succulents tend to root from cutting much faster compared to others, depending upon the variety. But yes, to some extent, the humidity also plays an important role in rooting the succulent. So if you have an environment that has a very balanced humidity, then I think it is going to work out really well. But yes, to some extent, if there is a little bit of moisture in the air, it will definitely help the cuttings root faster. Now, the same thing works. A lot of people also tend to do the water therapy, wherein they use a jar of water. They use a jar filled with water, like 1/4 or 3/4. They put a plastic, they cut a hole, and then they put the cutting in that. That also tends to work out really well. But I haven't tried that. But probably if you are from a very dry environment, you can try that. I cannot give you a concrete answer that it will work out because I do not try that method. I just leave them open like this and they tend to root. But also what I've noticed is, or what I've heard from people who have tried this method is that after they have the roots and once they transfer that cutting into the soil, the roots tend to die. I'm not very sure why does that happen. Probably because the roots are not able to acclimate properly in the dry soil, because all the while they have been in a water jar with a lot of water beneath, and that's how they started to grow the roots. And then when you tend to move them into dry soil, or probably the change in that growing condition is something that tends to damage the roots. I'm not very sure because I haven't tried that method. I just let them air root like this in open, and then they just put them into the soil and they tend to do quite well. You might have seen the other video as well, wherein the succulent had really thick roots, pink roots, and then I put it into the soil and now it has been anchored quite well. So I think it all depends upon your environment. Then it also depends upon the cutting, and then again it also depends upon the dormancy and the non-dormancy. Probably your succulent is not rooting because probably it is in its dormant period and it is taking a little bit of time. That's why if the succulent is in its dormant period, do not do a stem cutting. Wait until it gets into its growing period. Probably then the cuttings might do a little bit faster or better. So guys, I hope that the video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep planting.